This is Power Athlete Radio. With your hosts, Denny K, Professor Booty, and the Luke Summers. And now, toes forward, hips locked, shoulders set, and retract those scapulars. It's time for some knowledge bombs.
Hello, welcome to Power Athlete Radio. This is Denny. Steve, once again, is incognito, but rest assured, I got a badass group here. I got Luke, I got John Wellborn, and I have Cali, correct?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, you got Cali, and technically Chelsea's here, Ben's here, John's in the other office.
I'm here.
John's here, and then
Hold on, let me do my camera.
and then our boy Ryan Burnell is here from Australia too.
Awesome. So we got a special guest, but before I get to the guest, Luke, any updates coming out of Power Athlete headquarters?
We got a lot of stuff going on here. We have Power Athlete Team Series going on in Katy, Texas in a few weeks.
A lot of irons in the fire.
Cali's going to be there with Tex, and we're going to see some people throw some weight around down in America's biggest country. And we got $2,000 on the block for someone to take home, as well as a set of Power Athlete bumper plates. We are going to be at the CrossFit Games. We're going to have a booth at the Games. That's going to be killer. We're going to have the whole staff out there. And
we're going to be running a spelling bee.
We have some sort of secret event out there. It's either going to be
I'm going to spelling bee.
Poetry slam
session, or what am I milking? So it's one, or some sort of feat of athleticism. But we're gonna have a booth there. It's gonna be awesome, just like regionals was.
We were also thinking of having like best body contests. So we were thinking like pose down, like let me see your best poses.
and then burrito eating contest.
Yeah, burrito eating contest.
Lots of ideas over here. We're idea people, but we'll see.
A lot of irons in the fire. A lot of things happening. Yeah. Hey, you can have results and excuses in both.
But no, we're excited for the games. We got our booth all set up. We've got a ton of new gear coming in next week. Chelsea's running our store. She's going to be overloaded with like thousands of T-shirts just piled in the warehouse.
She doesn't like email.
What about the Hurley shorts?
Dude, it's all Hurley. It's their busy season. So those things, they'll get 10,000 pairs in, and they go to their distributors literally in a weekend.
So you have nothing. Right now, if I were to order a pair of Hurley shorts, either one, the solid black or the shorter one with the white stripes, I'd go, it's on back order.
No, you could order a pair, but they'd be 40s.
And Chelsea has to make them by hand.
Yeah,
and her hands are bleeding.
We only have a pair of 40s and a pair of 38s, I think.
Yeah.
And that's it. So, Denny, you're gonna have to get back on the milk.
Get back on the milk, right? Well, I don't want to give myself cancer, man.
Don't we all?
Oh my God.
Freaking out.
But and then we're training hard over here, Power Athlete HQ, just day in day out, and then that's basically what we got going on. And then certs. I mean, I'm telling you, the certs get better every week. We practice all day and all night here, and John gives us a lashing if we stutter. So we got
the one I was at, you rocked, man.
Oh,
I mean,
appreciate
I
it.
was just blown away.
Appreciate it.
And I'm curious to see, like, Cali, I want to go to a cert where she's, like, involved in that and kind of see, like, the direction she takes it.
Apple bottom
Yeah.
jeans. What's awkward is Cali wears cut off apple bottom jeans when she does her squat demos. So
Nice.
I feel like any seminar really requires a good costume change, so.
I equate it to watching two trains about to collide.
I was going to say like two puppies fighting under a blanket, but I like two trains better.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, neither do I.
Me either.
Oh.
But all right, enough about us and enough of our channel,
Yeah,
dude.
let's do our guests, man. Can't keep the man waiting.
Let's do it.
We got Bobby Goodfellow, right?
That's right.
Ex-training partner with Cali, current competitive jiu-jitsu MMA fighter, and you rip shit in half, right?
I do.
Bobby, just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. Well, thanks for the kind introduction. An old friend and training partner, like you said, of Cali's from here in D.C. I come from a powerlifting background and just a lifting for sports performance background. And I, after playing Super League Rugby, got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and no-gi grappling. And I've been competing locally here in the Mid-Atlantic for about a year or two now doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's been a lot of fun.
So going with the power athlete theme of what do you train for, Bobby Goodfellow, what are you currently training for?
I train for increased sports performance in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and no-gi grappling.
Awesome. As far as strength training, because I'll admit I haven't been up to date with the UFCs. Back when I watched them the most, I was really a big fan of like Rich Franklin and Matt Hughes, right? The kind of middle of the 2000s. Sure. And of course, you'd always see, before the fight, they would kind of go, they do like the prime time, and you can get a little bit of, you could see them training. And Matt Hughes and those guys kind of down at Militich, they seemed to incorporate a lot of the strength work and, sandbags and just throwing. Currently, it seems like MMA training is kind of endurance, and I get it. If you're going to, grapple for 25 minutes, you better have some conditioning. But am I wrong to think that strength really isn't prioritized on the current circuit?
Well, I would say that there's definitely a lack of focus in the pure strength department when it comes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA and no-gi grappling, simply because there's a huge focus on the skill and the technique involved. And I think some of the strength tends to go by the wayside. When you look at the birth of modern Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Helio Gracie was 135 pounds. His deal was you learn the skill, you learn the techniques, and you can really have your way with a bigger, stronger attacker. But in modern jiu-jitsu, more of competition focus, you really see the top level guys who come out. They're the people that have the really well thought out strength and conditioning programs because, the benefits of being strong are pretty easy to see. You can finish the submission faster, or you can deal with an attacking opponent by handling them or manipulating them because you're physically stronger than them. The benefits are pretty clear.
And as far as the conditioning aspect of let's just go with like your training, what does your training system kind of look like? Just real general.
Real general, I try to sling weights around a few days a week, and all of my conditioning work comes from either heavy loaded short metcons, things like airdyne intervals, just focusing on time under tension. And I include all the mat time that I have from grappling 5 to 6, sometimes 7 days a week. And I just include that in as part of my cardio component.
Nice. We talked a little bit off the air about the odd object lifting. There's a place for that in the power athlete program. I know at like our gym, we got the stones and logs and the heavy sandbags, and you were talking about some fire hydrants, right?
Yeah,
so I like to tell the nation a little, the training, what the training looks like when you involve fire hydrants.
Well, fire hydrants are just big, awkward, really heavy cast iron nightmares to try to pick up off the ground. So, they range anywhere from just under 300 pounds to extremely heavy, insane to try to even pick up. And they have, the nozzle inputs and the caps are extremely heavy and they're in weird places. So they want to rotate very strangely as you try to pick them up off the ground. So when you get in a position where if you ever get it into a position where you can try to pick up a fire hydrant or find somebody or train with people that have them laying around, it's a different experience, and it's a lot different than lifting an Atlas stone or lifting a sandbag or lifting a slosh pipe or anything that kind of moves around on you. But, I think that really prepares you in a way for actual combat with someone where you're trying to manipulate a moving body who's trying to do you harm,
Right, it's not perfectly balanced.
Exactly. The fire hydrant moves, the human body moves in strange ways, so, they're pretty parallel, and I think that they're very applicable, especially in grappling.
So are we talking like cleans? Fire hydrant clean to shoulder? We talking picking up and carrying, and what? I'm trying to get like a visual of.
Yeah, and most of them are too heavy to clean, and you wouldn't want that thing to rotate and hit you in the mouth.
I know. When I said that, I was like, well, that sounds freaking stupid. You're not going to clean it to your shoulder.
Yeah, but usually if you can lap it and get it up and kind of continental it to your shoulder and then move around with it under tension, time under tension is really important. So that's usually what the training would consist of.
And do you just go rip one out of the street? Is that how you do it? Do you just go rip
No,
one?
the guys that I used to train with who had access to them, they went to like the Department of Public Works grounds where they keep all of their storage stuff, where they fix their trucks, and any broken fire hydrant or an old fire hydrant that would need to be replaced, they would go there and ask them for them. And these people, they would just freely give them away. They'd be like, yeah, we don't need this broken 300-pound piece of cast iron. Please take it out of our yard.
That sounds a lot less exciting than what I was picturing. I was picturing like Project Mayhem. Like people just coming back with a whole bunch of fire hydrants. Just get them any way you can.
Hey, Luke, guess how much a fire hydrant costs?
How much it costs?
How much it costs. I had to do a little research when I heard about this. I was like, ooh, I better kind of get some info on fire hydrants. But you know how much the average one costs?
I grew up watching Price is Right, and I will go with $800.
Close. $2,000.
Not even close at all.
As I was saying that, I felt like the big surprise would be if I said it was like $10,000, right? So that's where I was going for with your close with 800. But
that's what the city pays to replace one. Is what you're getting at, Denny?
Yeah. Well, they probably mark it up, right? If you bump into one or damage one, they probably send you a bill that's double that. I mean, that's how it works.
Well, I guess, Bobby, what you need to start doing is start a business to resell reconditioned fire hydrants. We're all going to get rich.
That's your get-rich-quick scheme? Fix fire hydrants?
I'm telling you, one day we're going to get into some sort of market, and people are going to visit powerathletehq.com or CrossFit Football, and it's just going to be a big old sign that says "Gone Fishing," because we're going to figure it out. We're going to sell some fire hydrants, and it's over. Shop's closed, kids. Those are going to be the days. Fire hydrant resellers.
All right. Well, hey, Bobby, I got to ask, what's the deal with Cali's hands and getting cancer with using super glue?
Well, they're hooves. That's Luke, by the way.
They're hooves?
I don't know about this whole cancer thing, but I think the whole story comes from when Cali and I were training together. Her hands were all busted up, calluses were ripped off, and I just pulled out some super glue and super glued them back together for her. And that I've been using that for years, and I think when I first came across that technique when I was training strongman, and my buddy tore a chunk of skin off of his hand doing really heavy farmers, and it was real nasty. Just cleaned it out, and he super glued it shut, and I've had a tube of super glue in my gym bag ever since.
It's true. He took my little paw, and he just nursed me back to health.
So he glued your hands together, like clapping, glued them together?
Yeah, so my right was actually glued to my left hand. So it was awkward to lift weights after that, but they sure healed.
So, Cali, that's the first time that you've ever heard or seen super glue as like instead of stitches.
Yeah, and actually, like, I had stitches. Well, I mean, But he's right. My hands did get pretty busted up when I first started CrossFitting and doing a lot of barbell work. But, people were telling me like, oh, well, you're not gonna be able to lift weights for like 2 weeks. And Bobby's like, no way. He brought me to his locker. He pulled out the super glue and he told me exactly how to do it, how to clean your hands, make sure it's dry, and then like how to super glue it, like literally on the wound, and like make sure that you try to like super glue the skin back over. And I have been using that method ever since. My hands aren't as torn up as they used to be, but I always tell people to use that method. And I jokingly say that you'll get cancer from it, but nobody knows. It's we'll see in like 20 years, but the method worked great, and I could continue lifting throughout the week, like the next day. So I am actually pretty grateful for learning that from him.
Well, isn't that what new skin is? Isn't new skin just super glue with some sort of doctor stuff in there?
New skin. Do they still even sell that?
Oh yeah, dude, that's my go-to. I just slop new skin all over that shit.
But no,
I think the super glue works great, especially if you have a skin tear where the skin is still intact. You just super glue the skin back down. That way you don't develop a blister where you have that very fresh skin from underneath. You super glue the callus right back on. Bing, bang, boom, you're done.
Bing, bang, boom.
Bing, bang, boom.
So, Bobby, when I Googled your name and saw some of the videos, and it looks like you do like a lot of grip training, right?
I do, yeah.
And I can imagine, grabbing dudes and just submitting them. Any other reasons why the importance to the grip other than, what you can do in the cage?
Well, absolutely. Any time you use your hands in sport, whether you're, swinging a baseball bat or, blocking or catching a ball or punching someone or using their gi to choke them out, your hands are the end of the kinetic chain. So if you have strong lower arms, wrists, hands, thumbs, all of that is included, you're really going to be stable. You're going to be able to transfer power more efficiently. You won't have as much mechanical loss in terms of if you're swinging a bat and you have weak wrists and the bat comes in contact with the ball, you might lose a little bit of the energy in your weak wrists. So, it has benefits beyond just, ripping license plates in half and choking people.
Awesome. I kind of like the ripping license plates in half, man. I remember back in like the 70s, all the strongman stuff, it was telephone books,
games.
1,000-page yellow phone or yellow book, phone books. They just rip them right in half. Now it seems like it's license plates.
Yeah, they're uniquely difficult. So, the phone book presents one set of challenges and the license plate represents another set of unique challenges in terms of where you need to be strong and how you initiate the tear. But yeah, people tear decks of cards in half, quarter a deck of cards. I've seen people tear 2 decks of cards in half at once. It's all about applying all of that pressure to the right place.
For sure. So, Luke, what you want to get to some of the questions?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's barrel through these and see what type of advice we can give. These are one's not so tricky, one's kind of tricky. But between our infinite wisdom, the trifecta of brilliance, me, Bobby, and you, Denny, let's do it.
All right. Well, let's start with not so tricky.
Okay.
Josh Webb emailed in and he says, fellows, 3 to 4 times a year, I'm having to travel for work and play. A lot of these trips take me to the middle of nowhere, places like rural Uganda, middle of nowhere in Eastern Europe, and fly in, fly out communities in Canada. The trips usually last 2 weeks, and very, very rarely do I have access to anything that resembles a gym. I'm curious to see what you might suggest to use as a weekly template based on body weight for SWAD and DWAD to minimize any losses for a CrossFit football follower at any level. Then he just kind of gives, he's 31, 220, and 6'2". So you travel a lot, Luke.
Sure.
You probably got some suggestions for the guy.
Well, here's the deal, and I just want to go through. He likes to be big and strong, powerful athlete, no particular sport commitments, but enjoys the dynamics of CrossFit football and the ability to lift things up and put them down. So here's my deal. I'm seeing roughly maybe 6 to 8 weeks out of a whole year. This guy doesn't get to train, which that doesn't seem like a lot to me. But if he needs to train on any of this stuff, the best thing I'd say, your best bet in terms of minimizing any sort of detraining would be some interval sprinting. Just maybe 3 days a week of interval sprinting, hills, overspeed training on declines, any sort of decline you'd want to do on overspeed training. You want to try and keep that about a 3 degree grade. That's the overspeed stuff. But then of varying distances, 40s, 50s, 60s, 100s, 150s maybe, and try to find some sort of plyo routine too. Like that's the only thing I could think of. Like if you're in a field in the Serengeti, I don't know, you can get that stuff done. Find a log, lift it up, throw it around, Bobby, I'm sure you could like karate chop a tree down and lift and palm it. I don't know, like what other kind of stuff can you do?
Yeah, I would have suggested the same thing, interval sprinting for sure, push-ups, air squats, I know you're not going to get super strong doing that stuff. Find a rock, do some presses, it's your playground out there.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a lot. And think about this. If he's traveling for work and for play, like, dude, have a good time. This falls under the umbrella of the whole program. Don't be weird. Don't sacrifice your vacation to get your training. But I know that it keeps a lot of people grounded. I know when we just recently traveled to Australia a few months ago, I think we did a podcast shortly after, but as soon as Ben and I landed, we just got in and we squatted. We squatted and did whatever we could, but we also had a gym at our disposal. But just kind of to keep us sane and to try and minimize the stress of the actual travel. But and then I don't know and something else to think about when traveling is if you're traveling to different time zones and the stress of legitimately traveling, it does elevate cortisol levels. So I don't want to say the last thing you should do because there's a lot of things you shouldn't do. But in terms of training, like extended Metcons, let's say he's going to do like the classic, 5 rounds, 400-meter runs, 50 air squats. Isn't that like one of the travel WODs they have, Cali?
Yeah.
Like that to me seems like a little too much volume. But the interval stuff, rest is needed. Do some intensity sprints, some intensity plyo stuff, and I think that'd be a great way to do it. And I'm trying to imagine places like rural Uganda.
Why doesn't he just stop by CrossFit Uganda?
Yeah.
Pay the drop-in and just buy the shirt. That's how it works.
Middle of nowhere, Eastern Europe, fly-in, fly-out communities in Canada. Think of it like play. Don't think of it like training, but that should mitigate a lot of the detraining stuff. And at the end of the day, like if you're talking about your power lifts, you have to power lift to keep that stuff going, but this will help mitigate any sort of losses.
For sure. All right. Well, hopefully that'll help you out there, Josh. All right. Now to the not so easy. This was actually a comment to the comment section in Power Athlete episode 14, Power Athlete Radio 14. The handle is Bet Question for Power Athlete HQ. Okay, a guy from my old unit just got out and moved to the same town that I've been living in for the last 2 years. He's a double above-the-knee amputee from an IED in Afghanistan. I spoke with him today, and he would like to resume training again. His goals are to put on some muscle mass, get as strong as possible, and to keep what he has from breaking down on him. He only has one part of one femur, and sitting unbalanced all day causes him quite a lot of back pain. And to add structure and challenge into his daily life to help keep him motivated. I personally have been following CrossFit football for a few years now, and I understand that the primary focus of the program is on improving athletic performance. But I thought I'd ask you guys what your advice would be on training someone in his situation. For example, is there a specific way in which you would modify the power athlete template to work around his injuries, or would you recommend him pursuing another program? First of all, tell your friend that I personally thank him for his service.
Yeah, right on, dude.
And hang in there, dude. You got the right mindset. We got the power athlete gurus here that can hopefully kind of steer you in the right direction and get you started. So, Luke, off the top of your head, something come to mind to help this guy?
Well, let's talk about the power athlete template. The template consists of balancing volume intensity along the primal movement patterns. Obviously, the lower primal movement patterns, the lunges, the squats, and the step-ups are completely out of question. That goes without saying. I would hope, or I would assume, that this guy's shoulder girdle is relatively intact, where you could figure out a way to work some push-pull variations. On top of that, if we want to add some sort of conditioning, there are some options in terms of like battle ropes or sled drags, and just off the top of my head, that's what I'm thinking of. Cali, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of to touch on what Luke said, yeah, you can still, obviously the presses are all good, making sure we're getting the 3-to-1 push-pull ratio, you can still kind of incorporate that, and incorporating swimming as well. I mean, that's going to be a great way for him to condition and have him doing intervals of like treading water or swimming if he's, if he knows how to swim. Those are also awesome things that you can't rule out.
But that, and what's tricky too is like this is a classic. I mean, this is like a N=1 deal. So this trauma happens to multiple individuals, and they continue to train. We see a lot of success stories, but we'd have to see what components work. There may be some option to keep the hip girdle intact and keep it strengthened through some of the manual resistance stuff. Maybe we could still elicit some ABA deduction with bands, with, again, manual resistance, which we cover in depth at the cert, how that whole thing works. But we'd have to do an assessment. We'd have to see where this guy is at. It sounds like he has the mental fortitude, but sometimes you can, out-tough the training results. Mental toughness is one component, but you also got to be smart in this situation as well. But I don't know, Bobby, you got any ideas?
No, I think what you guys said it would be exactly what I would do. If possible, brace the torso, one-arm sled drags, power rope variations for some cardio work, press, core work, including the lower back for sure, and upper back work with a lot of band variations, pull-aparts, face pulls, external rotation stuff to get engaged there.
And when you evaluate CrossFit as the training system, it's constantly varied functional movements performed at high intensity, right? And this constantly varied thing does have merit. We do know if you change training stimulus over, let's say after an extended period of training, and you change the stimulus, it will continue to drive adaptation. And that you need to vary that. But when you're in a scenario like this, you're ultimately, you're limited to your own experience and you're limited to your own creativity, and the training might not be as varied as you could do with an athlete who's completely capable. But that's not to say the training won't work. Just get him in there, and I think we talked about it a couple episodes, and it's one of our new mantras here. Get him in there and move the dirt. Get him pulling, get him pushing, get him stronger, and dude, it'll come. It'll come.
Absolutely.
For sure. So hopefully, question for a vet that'll help you out. You could always hold on for a second.
We're being ambushed by little ones.
Being ambushed by little ones, yeah. You could always definitely take a video of maybe some general movements and submit it to the Power Athlete contact section, and maybe when one of these guys, if they have time from their schedule, they could take a look at it and help you further. But hopefully that's enough to kind of help your buddy out and get him going in the right direction.
And when this comment hit the boards, John and I talked at length about it and how to address it. And it's tricky because we would have to do an assessment. We're making assumptions. The biggest thing is you have to make sure the athlete can get into position and can maintain position through any of these movements. So you may need to figure out how to anchor them.
Mobility, stability.
Yeah, you have to work. You have to make sure the stability is there, the mobility is there. Like there may have to be a progression. Like you may have to build some stuff through this catastrophic injury. You have to rebuild before you even get to the intensity push and pulls. So take that into consideration as well. But whatever we could do to help the situation, we'd love to hear back on whether or not this is practical for you, or if it does work, or what the situation is. We'd be willing to help out.
That's awesome. All right, where's the next Power Athlete Team Series in Texas, right?
Yeah, buddy. Katy, Texas, just outside Houston. It's going to be July 20th.
Nice. Any same deal, right? Prowler. Second place team's gonna get take home a prowler.
If we
First place gets the money, the plates, the swag.
Correct. We're just trying to make sure we can get the Power Athlete logo onto the new prowler. Once I confirm that, I'll throw it up on Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff to confirm that we got the Power Athlete logo on there, so that it's kind of cohesive with the Power Athlete bumper plates and everything. And we'd love to be able to give that as a second place prize as well.
Cool. I think we're out of time, guys. Any closing thoughts?
Well, dude, Denny, you told me at the CERT that you had a story on a recap with the team series in Lisle that you wanted to share with Cali. What was that?
Why am I nervous?
I'm not exactly sure what story we're talking about. Are we talking about the looks department?
I don't know. Maybe that was it. Maybe you have a bone to pick.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it a little bit in the. We did Power Athlete Nation. We did a podcast from the last CERT. It'll be put out to the public soon.
Yeah, tonight.
But on that, I kind of touched upon this. But I was at the Lisle Pat series, okay, and Playtech was in Atlanta, so Cali has met Steve and I in person, in the flesh, and I had to ask her who she thought was the better looking man.
You guys are equally attractive in my eyes,
Is that what she said in live?
She kind of went towards Booty, Professor Booty. So, what I like to think is that was right before I was going to go do my lift. I ended up deadlifting, all right, because I know I was saying I was going to squat or bench, but our deadlifter hurt his back like just a few days before the event. And like I've been saying, my training's been going like I would have PR'd in any lift. And so I was like, well, all right, I'll go in there and I'll deadlift. He ended up benching. But it was just before my deadlift, right? I wanted to open at 500 pounds. And I think Cali purposely told me that just so I would kind of, have a little bit of anger to go and complete this lift. Because I know deep down, I could tell by the look in her eyes that maybe I'm the more attractive looking one. But I think you helped me with my lift. That's my point.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
It helped me get through it. I stood up with it. I actually jumped up another 5 pounds, and I think your plan worked, Cali. I really do.
Good. Yeah, everybody heard you shout too at the top of your lift. You were like, "Take that, Professor Booty," and you're clearly fueled by my motivating words. So good. I'm glad.
That's awesome. That's probably the one story, right, Luke? Some of those other ones we probably don't want to talk about on the podcast.
Sure. And, Cali's attracted to to letters behind the name. So just the fact that Booty has a PhD, Denny, guys like you and me, we don't have a chance.
Can't hang with that.
All we have is LV1.
Yeah, level 1. Yeah, totally. No, no, you guys are equally attractive in my eyes. So, just keep doing what you're doing. The strength is really what gets girls going. So, there you go.
There you have it, Power Athlete Nation.
But let's see. I think that's all I got, dude. I want to thank Bobby for coming on. Bobby, you got anything else? Didn't you just win a gold medal?
I did, yeah. Just took first place at the 100th U.S. grappling tournament in Richmond this past weekend. So it was a good time.
So Bobby's kind of a big deal, people.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big deal.
Google this man's name. You'll see some good videos.
Well, dude, I'll put him in the show notes. We'll get some awesome videos of Bobby in like a Speedo ripping apart a tree trunk.
That's how we roll, right?
I just want to say thanks for having me. It's been fun. Hopefully, had some good contributions for you guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot, dude. Denny, another one in the books, dude.
Sweet. Thanks a lot, Bobby. Bye, Cali. Bye, Luke.
Bye.
Bye. See you guys.
Cheers, guys. Bye.